Hello everybody. Today we're going to look at the concept of pathing. What is pathing? Well, let's sort of look at the problem that we're trying to solve. So, what happens when we're training, we're working with someone, we end up coming up against a resistance point. Right? So we come into that and bang, there it is. Now, what happens then is we end up trying to do something at that resistance point, trying to push it, trying to force it into something, and we fixate on it. And what happens there is we burn up a lot of energy, we stall, and we stop, which are the things that we don't want to happen. So, how do we solve that? Pathing. So, what is that? So what happens is we have our resistance point here. Now, instead of fixating on that, we look just beyond it. Right? So we're over here and we need to get to there. So what happens is we end up not really focusing on the resistance point in the middle, but rather the point on the other side. So that helps us maintain our momentum, it helps us maintain our potency, and it allows us to keep on moving through. Now, what has to happen here is whatever techniques, whatever movements, whatever strategies we've devised to deal with these resistance points, has to happen instantly, because I have to get from here to there straight away. So it's not a case of I can take my time, it's not a case of, yeah, sure, I'll get to there as soon as I deal with this thing here. It's a case of I've got to be from here, next thing I know, I'm there. So whatever has to happen here happens instantly. Now, this is where people have a lot of problems, because not only does it have to happen instantly, but I can't focus on it, I can't fixate on it. Now, how do I not focus on or fixate on the thing that I'm trying to deal with? The resistance point that's causing me all this grief. Therein lies the skill. So what we have to train is that, yes, this is my focus here. Being here is more important than being here. And getting here requires me to deal with this straight away. So this is where you would have heard people say you have to practice it 1,000 times to make it come naturally. It doesn't always work like that though. The way you practice it is the way you apply it. So if I practice a movement, practice a technique, a strategy 1,000 times, I'll apply it the same way I practice it. So what we need to do is we need to practice whatever strategy we're doing with the idea that we're actually trying to be somewhere else. So how does this apply to multiple attackers? Let's have a look. So I've got my resistors here, okay, or my attackers, whatever you want to call them. Right. And I've got to get from here to there. Now, I'll have to move through these people pretty well, so just say something like that. Right. And as I explained up here, I'd have to go from there to there, there to there, there to there, and there to there. Now, pathing is more than just this thing that we just explained up here. Right? So pathing is 1, what we just explained. 2, it's this path along here. And 3, it's this final destination there. Right? So those are the 3 things that we need to be aware of. What's happening in this immediate vicinity, what's happening on the grander scale, and what's our ultimate goal. So you need to keep those things in mind at the same time throughout this whole process. Now, obviously, my attackers aren't just going to stand there all stationary and let me pass through them. No, they're going to be moving around. So this is one of the things where I can't fixate on a perceived outcome before anything's ever happened. I can't predict how things are going to go from one moment to the next. So this is where pathing also helps. So it's quite easy just to say, yes, I'm just going to do this, but as we just said, that's not possible. What has to happen is I break down these longer bits into smaller chunks as well. So like I focus from there to there and not in between, I also, if I keep this unbroken, I'm just focusing on this person here. As soon as I've left this one here, I'm going to be telegraphing. My intent is going to be obvious, and everyone is going to be able to focus around that and just swarm in. Now, what actually happens is these get broken up into little bits as well. So at each moment, I'm reassessing the situation. So what do I reassess? I reassess the movement of all of these things around here. So this is that second thing that we talk about. So like I said, I go from there to there, but I also look at this greater path. This greater path can change at any moment, right? Self-driving cars do this. Self-driving cars know their destination, but what they do is they go, yes, this is how I'm going to plan it, but then in the next moment, they're recalculating and they're recalculating and they're recalculating. This is exactly the same, right? The only difference being is self-driving cars will go around an obstacle, but we'll go through it. Now, so from here to there, and then there to there, and there to there, I'm reassessing. Where is this person going? What's this person doing? What's happening here? What's happening here? And it all changes moment to moment, moment to moment. And you're doing this all the way through to the end. So the path is this, but it's also that. It can constantly change. So how can we train this? One of the simplest ways is just by hanging up a piece of cloth. So you can use that as a bit of a visual tool, that this is my resistance point, but immediately you want to think, I need to be to the next place. Right? Another way you can make that a bit easier on yourself as well is hang up one, and then hang up another, and hang up another, and just go, okay, I need to be between all those points instantly. If you feel like it, if you have a punching bag or something like that as well, you can use that and go, I need to be on the other side of that, but then the bag is giving you some resistance now. Right? And then you need to develop a strategy. Okay, well, how do I move through this bag without losing my momentum and without having to stop and try something on the bag? I have to be from this point to that point instantly. That's my rule. That's how it works. So that's something you could try. You could try hanging up multiple objects and swinging them around and working your way through. That's something you can do. It makes sure that you keep your vision moving, keep it dynamic. One thing I used to work on for a while was actually just running through the bushland as well. So you'd have to run through the trees and move yourself out of the way, and there was a lot of stimulus. So that kept the mind active and it made sure that you got out of the ways of the trees. Right? Don't move through the trees, you're not going to win. One of the biggest problems people face when looking at working on pathing is people spend so long focusing on this resistance point prior to working on pathing, and so long in developing the strategies to deal with that, that the way pathing works, because I'm focusing on this side of the resistance and on the other side of the resistance, I don't actually get to see the result of what I do. I don't get to see if my techniques worked. I don't get to see the effect that it's had on the other person. And this is where people sometimes feel a bit of a void, or they feel like there's an uncertainty about what they do. And yes, there is that uncertainty. You don't know if that worked. So this also gets amplified a little bit in the group work as well. So I'm just past the one person, and the next person, and the next person. How do I know that's worked? How do I know they're not right behind me? How do I know they're not going to be tackling me, from the side or from behind or anything like that? The answer is you don't. So this is where you need a shift in what a guiding point is. So the usual guiding point was the fact that yes, I've hit the person, yes, they're unconscious, yes, they've been turned away, yes, they're on the ground, but I don't get to see that now. So my reference point now is, whether I'm doing well, is am I still moving? Am I feeling energized? Have I stopped? So those are the ones. They're a little bit less tangible because all you've got is, well, yes, I'm still moving, so I guess everything's worked out okay. But what did it look like? You'll never know. So this is what we look at, though, when we look at dealing with group work compared to one-on-one a lot of the time, is that it's more about the survival aspect. Survival is more about freedom, energy, and movement. Whereas one-on-one can often fall into that whole dominance type of mentality. So if you stick with the survival mindset, knowing that as long as I have my freedom and as long as I'm still moving, it's all good. So try to keep that in mind and try to notice when your mind wants to go back to this resistance point. So, and try to focus on what's beyond it. So I hope you found this helpful. Don't forget to put all of these ideas into your mode training as well. If you have any questions, hit me up, send me an email, comments below, and happy training.